Sorry. What? 1 second. Okay, so what I wanted to look at is it's an amazing parsha, this parsha, because once again it highlights, but really for the first time, it highlights it highlights Avraham Avinu for the first time. So Avraham Avinu, lech lecha, we're told about how he's told to go for himself. In Shul over Shabbos, I just spoke about how that Avraham, initially we remember that Avraham stopped on the way he was going with his father and his whole family, and they stopped in Haran on the way to Eretz Canaan. And why did they stop? Because he was building this incredible place. He building these people that were there. And that's what the Torah says, that all these people that were now connected into monotheistic belief, all of a sudden, Avraham had a very receptive audience. And so he's learning and he's teaching and he's really getting everything that he wants. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, lech lecha, no, it's not for you. That's not the right place for you. Even though you think you're growing, that's not the place you're going to grow to your absolute. Where's the place you're going to grow to your absolute? The place that I'm going to show you. And where's that? We know that's going to be in Eretz Yisrael. So Avraham Avinu goes, he takes everybody with him, and when he arrives in Eretz Yisrael, and I don't want to go through the whole story of that because there's so much in it that we can get lost in. But what it does, the Torah does tell us that he walks the length and the breadth of the land of Israel, somehow making an acquisition of that space for him and for his family going forward. And then the Torah tells us very strangely, the Torah tells us there was this terrible famine that happened in the land of Israel. And what's interesting, it's only in the land of Israel. And Avraham Avinu goes down to Mitzrayim, lagur sham. If you remember, even from the Seder, in the Seder we speak of there's two words. By the way, this word. These words are important because lagur sham means to dwell there temporarily, as opposed to vayeshev, which means to dwell there in a permanent way. In Haran, it says vayeshev b'Haran, that they dwelt permanently in Haran. They're supposed to dwell permanently in Eretz Yisrael, but because of the famine, they can't, and they go down to Mitzrayim, lagur sham. Lagur sham is to be a ger, is to be a stranger, not to be there in a permanent way. And Avraham Avinu goes there, and Rashi points out, what was this all about? How come Avraham is gone, walked the length and breadth of the land of Israel, and everything is fantastic? And this is where HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants him to be. And all of a sudden, there's a Rav. Obviously, the Rav, this famine is caused by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if the famine is caused by the Ribono Shel Olam, so it must be that that's what Hashem wants. So why does Hashem want to bring the Rav? And Rashi says, the reason is very simple. The reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings a famine is in order to test them. Vayirav ba'aretz is to test Avraham Avinu. What's the test? What is the test that he's going to see? So the Rashi explains the test really is to test whether Avraham Avinu, who's been told to go from one place to another, he's been uprooted from his entire home, and now he's has to go to a whole new place. Is he going to, in any way, have any sort of kind of animosity towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu? As the way the Rashi says, "Ba'osa aretz levada, then soisa im yaharer achar dvarav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu." Was the faith of Avraham Avinu entrenched enough within him that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu changes the playing field, he's not going to object to that. Because initially Hashem told him to go to one place, now telling him to go to another place. And that's very much part of, I think, what we need to understand in our lives is that our lives are not a one-day game. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so therefore, even though we may be pointed into one direction, there may be a need to move into another direction. There are going to be ups and downs. And that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is testing, is Avraham Avinu is told by Hashem to go to a place where you'd think that it'll only be fantastic. Now they're going to be little ups and downs. Is Avraham Avinu going to be challenged by that? And Avraham Avinu doesn't blink. When he's coming to Mitzrayim, there's no issue of his relationship with Hashem in any way that is challenged. But what he does, says to Sarah, now I know that you are a beautiful woman, that you look beautiful, you present an image of beauty. Why is that so important? Rav Soloveitchik points out that we say in the Isha Sheker achein lehevel hayofi Isha yiras Hashem hitis halal. We say that sheker achein, that the chein and beauty are all lies, and the Isha, a woman who is a yirat Hashem, she's the one who is praiseworthy, and we believe that, and it's important, it's fundamental. But where's that coming from? Why is that the way that we end it? Because Eshet Chayil is a praise on many levels to all the women in our lives, to the feminine energy of Shabbos, but also to praise to Sarah Imenu. And Sarah Imenu's major thing was that she was beautiful, she was magnificent, but at the same time she was an Isha Yirat Hashem. And in Abraham's eyes, the Isha Yirat Hashem aspect of Sarah was the fundamental part of her. That was so secondary to who she was and who she was supposed to become. But when he went to Mitzrayim, he understood that he's no longer in a space where people are focused on the spiritual, on the emotional, on the sensitivities and the nuances of human beings, but rather, he was going to a place which was completely, as the Torah, the Gemara describes it, as totally immersed in zimmer, totally immersed in any type of sexual promiscuity. And that meant that their focus was on the physical. So now Avraham Avinu is going to this place and says, hold on a second, I'm going into a new place. That's such an important lesson for all of us. I'm going to a new place. I need to see my surroundings through the eyes of those that I'm going to be in. And so he sees this, oh gosh, she's a beautiful woman. And what's going to happen if I go there? She's such a beautiful woman and I am married to her. Then they're going to kill me. Why? Because they're going to want to take her. So why would they kill him in order to take her? Why don't they just take her? So the Netziv points out, it's fascinating. The Netziv points out they are so involved in sexual promiscuity. They are so involved in the most debased and degrading behavior. However, they have a value. And that is the value of marriage. Somehow. They understand that there is an Isur, that there's a prohibition of the Shiva of the Bnei Noach against any type of adultery. So what would happen? What they would do, Avraham Avinu understands, is that if he said it was his wife, they couldn't take her because it's somebody else's wife. So what would they do? They would, this is the way the Netziv explains it, they would somehow work a way that he would be killed, would make an accidental death. And since he would be killed, then they'd be able to take her. They would not do it directly. They would do it in an indirect way in order to take her. So he knows that. So if he says, she's my sister, because she's my sister, they won't kill her. In order that they'll do good for me, they'll do good for me because of you, and they won't kill me. The important part here, it says, and the people saw the Isha, this woman. That's for the first time in the Torah that it describes Avraham Avinu's wife as Ha-Isha. It never describes her as Ha-Isha. It always describes her as Sarai. Sarai means a princess. Sarai is an important person, a woman of great class, a woman of great stature. But when it goes into Mitzrayim, and this is the proof of what Avraham Avinu recognized about her, they don't see her as Sarai. They don't see her as this woman of incredible spiritual value and a woman of great intellectual value and a woman of great emotional intelligence. They see her as Ha-Isha. What did they see? They just saw she was beautiful. They had no inkling of who the person was. And what did they do? And then they go, and they see her, they think she's beautiful, they take her to the house of Paro. it's really quite a commentary that you think that at this point in time, this woman who's built up communities, who's brought people closer to Kodesh Baruch Hu, and all of these things, as Rav Soloveitchik says, that from the very moment they crossed the border, no one cared about a spiritual personality or leadership or status. The Egyptians looked at her from one perspective, whether they were physically attractive or not. And that then goes to the understanding of why she's so beautiful and she's so lovely. So therefore, what do? As part of the physicality of Mitzrayim, they give all these incredible gifts to Avraham Avinu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't allow that, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, on the insistence, the way Rashi described it, that Sarah had like this angel that was looking after her. She instructed him a way to cause trouble for Paro, and so Paro gets all these negaim, all these different types of ailments and afflictions, so he can't do anything to Sarah. And eventually, we know and we understand that Paro comes and says to Avram, "What did you do? If you had told me she was your wife, I wouldn't have taken her." That's a lie. That's a lie. He would have taken it, he would have taken it a different way. But okay, says, and therefore, what does he say to her? He says, Hinei ishtacha kach v'lech. Here's your wife, take her and go. Vayetzav alav Paro anashim v'yishalcheu oto v'yishto v'etzkol asher lo. And Paro commands his people, and he sends them out with et oto, him, that man, Vet Ishto, and his wife, Vet Kol Asher, and everything that he has. And it's interesting. Where does he send them? He just sends them. He sends them out of Mitzrayim. He sends them out of that place. He doesn't want them there anymore. What's most striking about that is that he could have just said, well, just go live somewhere else in Mitzrayim. But he doesn't want them there. He understands that if they are there, then they have the potential to destroy the fabric of Egyptian society. They are such powerful people. They are so spiritually connected that they would not tolerate the zimmer, the terrible engagements that the Mitzrayim were having. They wouldn't tolerate that. And not only that, is that they would try and influence the Mitzrayim in an appropriate way. And isn't that what they said about the Jewish people, that we have a conscience of the world? And I think that is really what Torah understood, is that if you would let them stay in Mitzrayim, even far away where they wouldn't be touched, they would impact on the Mitzri environment, and in doing that, they would destroy what Egypt really was at that point in time. And so therefore he sends them out, and it says immediately that Vayal Avram, that Avram left, he went totally out of Mitzrayim, and he starts reliving his life in the land of Israel. And we'll continue, please God, tomorrow with some of those adventures that Avram, Sarah, and Lot go through. Have a beautiful day, everybody. God bless.